If you were just getting into reading and you asked me what books you should read from each genre, these are the books that I would recommend. Starting off in the romance category, anything by Lynn Painter. These books are all 3 super short books and they are all hilarious. I had such a good time. I actually listened to all 3 of these and I loved them all. Also in the romance category, I would recommend The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This is one of my favorite books I've ever read. Other 2 that I would recommend for you are The Paradise Problem and Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. Both of these books are absolutely phenomenal. The Paradise Problem is a little bit funnier and Love in Other Words is a little bit more sweet. Next we have the thriller genre. Now I do not consider myself a big thriller reader because I am a big wimp. However, I have read some, and these are the ones that I would recommend to somebody just getting into thrillers. That's Not My Name by Megan Lally, first of all. It's very short. Second of all, it's very easy to understand, and the plot twist at the end literally blew my mind. I had no idea what was coming. Then we have The Perfect Marriage by Geneva Rose. Absolutely same situation as That's Not My Name. I did not see this plot twist coming from 15 miles away. This is one of the first thrillers that I ever read, and I still recommend it to people all the time. The last book that I'll recommend in the thriller genre is Verity by Colleen Hoover. This is the book that got me into reading. However, this book is pretty controversial, so do with that what you will. However, I love this book, and I actually do think about it pretty often. Next up, we have the dark romance category. First, I have Lights Out by Navessa Allen, and this book is absolutely hilarious. I listened to it on audio, and I was cracking up in my car. While this is funny, it also does kind of introduce you to some deeper topics so you can get a handle on if you think that you would enjoy that or not. Next, we have one of my favorite books of all time, Nocticadia by Carrie Lake. This is a dark gothic romance, and it is student and professor. However, I would say that this is a little bit more beginner-friendly of a dark romance than some of the other ones. However, still check your trigger warnings. And then next we have contemporary fiction. The first author I would recommend is Taylor Jenkins Reid, and while she does have a lot of romance in her contemporary fictions, I do firmly believe that she is a contemporary fiction writer. I have read One True Loves by her, which is this one, and then I also read Evidence of the Affair by her, and I did enjoy them both. And although I have not read many books by Taylor Jenkins Reid, I will say that there are so many people in the book talk community that adore her as a contemporary fiction author. And then next, of course, I have Emma Gray. She has quickly became one of my auto-buy authors. The most recent book that I read from her was The Last Love Note, and then also I read Pictures of You by her earlier this year. I will say that these are both romance subplots. However, the main point of the plot is about women finding their way in a new environment that they are not used to. Lastly, I have fantasy. So starting out for fantasy, I read Fourth Wing. That was my first fantasy book I ever read, and while I did love it and I think about it all the time, I do think that it was a little bit too much fantasy for me to go into. What I wish I would have read the first time was Powerless by Laura Roberts, because this book is so easy to understand. The angst and the tension is literally unmatched. Like Kai Azar, the MMC, I'll never get over this man. I highly recommend this being one of your first fantasy books if you don't feel comfortable going into that universe yet. And another book that I just recently read is Heartless Hunter, and I highly recommend this for beginners in fantasy as well, because again, the world building is super easy to understand. The tension, the yearning, the angst, it's very good. This was actually so easy to understand that I was able to listen to this on my drives to and from work, and I'm usually not able to do that with fantasy books because I have to be able to pay attention so I can comprehend everything that's going on.